Season 5 of Angel is brought to you by Odoo is a fully customizable and fully integrated suite of business apps that lets you build and scale your stack as you build and scale your business. Your first app is free forever, and right now, Odoo is offering $1,000 off your first implementation pack at odoo.com/twist. That's ODOO.com/twist. OurCrowd helps you invest early in pre-IPO companies alongside professional VCs. If you're interested in investing, you can join OurCrowd for free at OurCrowd.com/twist. And LinkedIn Jobs. A business is only as strong as its people, and every hire matters. Post your first job for free at linkedin.com/angel.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 9, season 5, Super Angels, the series we do as part of This Week in Startups. You all tell me you want to meet more investors, you want to meet people who do early stage, and so we created the podcast Angel, and we've done now 5 seasons. This 5th season, we thought we would focus on what we call super angels. What's a super angel? It's a term we made up. It basically means somebody who's invested in a lot of companies, is at the top of their game, and who you can learn a lot from. And what a season it's been. I mean, to just go down the list, episode 10 coming up, Joanne Wilson, the Gotham Gal Ventures is coming on. Good friend of mine. We worked together in the 90s. We had Reid Hoffman, Matt Mullenweg, Gary Tan, Mark Cuban, Howard Lindzen, Elad Gil, Des Traynor, David Tisch. I mean, this is a lineup of just killers, and today will be no different. My friend Paul Judge of Panoramic Ventures is on episode 9. How you doing, Paul?
Hey, man, I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I miss you. I haven't seen you in person in over a year.
It has been a long time, but it's good to see you digitally, and you're growing and becoming more high resolution by the day here. I love it.
Yeah, this is the thing. I would never do remote interviews. I thought I had to do every interview in person because, number one, I felt I needed to be in the same room with somebody to kind of really get the conversation going, which maybe is true, maybe it's not. But also, everybody didn't know how to set up their home studio. They would be on Wi-Fi, they'd be on bad Wi-Fi, they'd have an old computer, they wouldn't have a good camera, they have a terrible microphone. And now, in the year of the pandemic, everybody's got a podcast studio at home and things are golden. Now, is it okay if I say where you're based right now?
Yeah.
Is it okay to disclose?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So you're part of the Miami crew now. You were representing Atlanta, and now you're spending time in Miami.
Yep. So I'm based in Atlanta mostly, but I am in Atlanta mostly, but I'm in Miami at the moment. And I've been, coming back and forth. And, I used to come back and forth to the Bay Area, but coming here is it's an hour and a half flight versus kind of 4 hours. I used to commute to the Bay Area all the time.
And now there's just a ton of people there doing internet stuff.
Oh, it's amazing.
Crazy.
It's amazing. Every week there's someone else that I kind of bounce into that I know that is here right now or thinking about moving or have moved. And we've done a couple investments in the city so far this year. And so, I love the energy.
The energy is there. The Bay Area no longer has a stranglehold on funding or being the place to form your company. And since we're all living on Zoom, I don't know about you, but I've made a ton of investments over the last year, and I haven't even met the founders yet. Have you invested in companies over Zoom and not met the founders?
Yes, I have not met a new founder in person. I don't know, in a year, right? And I don't know,
Same
20,
for me. Same.
20, 25, 30 investments in the last year, and I've met 2 in person after I invested. Those were the 2 that happened to be in Miami. I met them after we invested. But 25 decisions that are they're here. They're Zoom, they're video.
And what can we take away from that in terms of what we thought we needed to do in terms of making an investment versus what the pandemic forced us to do? And then the second part of that would be, what do you think is going to happen now after we all get our shots and, we're YOLO in Q3? Or at least I am. I can't speak for you, but I'm going crazy this summer, man. I'm going to be anywhere but home.
it's
I'm going to be racking up the miles.
Right? It's almost there. It's almost, people are getting more vaccines. So it's about that time.
Taste it.
Yeah, the fall is going to be good. There was just All-Star Weekend in Atlanta.
Yes. Did you go?
This weekend? No, I didn't. I think there's a lot of people in the city kind of right now, a little bit too early.
Too soon.
So I didn't.
Tempting.
Right?
Too soon though.
I didn't. I watched it on TV. But
my man Obi Toppin from the Knicks got robbed the slam dunk contest. Obi should have won.
Oh yeah, slam
did you
dunk
watch the slam dunk contest?
Yeah, I watched the slam dunk and the 3-point.
That guy didn't kiss the ring. He didn't kiss the rim. He got up there. He was like 3 feet from the rim, and he just blew a kiss to the. I could blow a kiss to the rim. Obi Toppin's like jumping over his dad and Julius Randle doing this like crazy windmill. Come on.
No, it was fun. It was fun. And Curry in the 3-point, pulling it off by like 1 point at the end.
I mean, he's a video game.
Like automatic. I mean, it was
video game.
Be able to win with just that last final point, and like you see the human side of it that he barely made it. I love it.
So great. He's the greatest shooter ever, right? I mean,
yeah.
Ray Allen can't come close. I mean, I'm trying to figure out if there's anybody who's even close. Maybe Klay Thompson is the only person who's really close. Dame?
Yeah. Yeah, and just the way he does it so automatically and effortlessly. Like the other guy who was close behind him by 1 point, you could tell he was trying to the full extent of his capability. Yeah. And Steph with a bad kind of round still pulled it off.
On a bad run, he's still better than the best run that everybody else had.
That was the crazy part. So yeah, that was it. I watched All-Star virtually, but then you were asking about Zoom and meeting people virtually and what happens when the world opens up. And I think it's changed what it means to have a meeting, right? It used to be 30 hours of commute, an hour meeting, 30 more minutes of commute, and now that all goes down to a 30-minute meeting. So there's just so many more in a day. I get to see more companies than I would have seen otherwise.
100%, yes. That's the big change.
Yeah, like your top of funnel is wider. And then from the entrepreneur standpoint, it's a bit easier, I think, to get a meeting with an investor than it was traditionally. And so that means a whole new generation of entrepreneurs that wouldn't have had access now have more access to venture capital and to angel investors.
It definitely lowers a VC's or an investor's benchmark or bar to take a meeting because it's 30 minutes and you're not coming to my office and there's always this fear, like maybe this person's just really strange or who knows. But like if you're doing a 30, I feel like people want to get off the Zoom in 20 minutes. Like when you start getting into that 20 to 30 minute zone, people are like, all right, I got to be on another one of these in an hour, man. I got to get off this and go take care of my kids or my dog or something or have a sandwich. It really is. The other thing somebody brought up that I thought was so on point that I hadn't realized was it feels like we flipped getting to know the person and then diligencing the company and the opportunity. We used to get to know the person and then try to figure out the opportunity and move into due diligence. So it was like socialization and this performative, here's my deck and I'm answering the questions. Now we get all the information up front. We get all the diligence. And then like you said, after you invest, you're like, yeah, I'd love to meet.
Right.
Maybe go for a walk and talk.
Yep. So remove some of the bias that exists, right? Like if someone has built a real company and has good customer traction and so forth, those numbers can speak for themselves versus do I know to go to the right coffee shop? Do I know to order the right cappuccino? Like some of those social norms that if you're not based in the Bay Area, you have a different background, you might have failed that first part of the filter, but now you get a chance to go straight into talking about what you're building. It's good. I think it's a good thing for the ecosystem. I also find people
are very, very much upfront, in the email exchange and then going into the meeting. So I have founders who are like, this is the amount we're raising. This is how much we have left in the round. Here's the diligence documents. Here's the diligence folder. Here's the note. Would you like to get on a call? And normally they were trying to get the meeting in person, kind of build that social credibility, build the relationship, and then, slowly trickle out that information. The founders are just like, here's everything. Are you in or out? Let's, cut to the chase here. And so the efficiency is real. I think it was probably more like 2 hours, 3 hours to do a meeting. You could probably do reasonably 2, maybe 3 meetings in a day, right?
Right.
Now I plow through 2 or 3 meetings in a morning.
Exactly. Exactly.
This is so much better.
Yep.
And it's not going to go away, right? Is that your prediction?
No, not at all.
Keep doing it this way, right?
Especially, top of funnel deal flow, like you can see more things. Like you, by 3 or 4 times higher, of viewing and meeting and understanding. What I found is, some number of entrepreneurs have built a good business, but they don't know how to make the deck the right way. They don't know the right ratios. They don't know the right lingo, but like they have like a really good business. And typically, like you wouldn't take those meetings. You would see the deck and like, I don't know. And you just miss it. But now you're like, all right, let me give it 30 minutes and see. And then you meet them and you see the passion and you meet the founder and you hear about it. And so I think it's helped with better deal flow, but it's also helped kind of a set of entrepreneurs that wouldn't have gotten a chance. And so I don't think you go back to viewing a third of the number of deals.
So you even feel like Paul Judge has less bias in prejudging a startup, right?
Absolutely.
We all had some bias coming into it, like the ugly deck, maybe the awkwardness. They don't know the terms to use. They don't got the right connects to get to you. Now it's just like, I'll take the meeting, 20 minutes. And now I have 3 people doing meetings for me now, introductory meetings all week. So they're seeing 20 people, 15 to 20 people each a week. So I have 50 at the top of the funnel, and then I get the top, 5 or 10 of that. So it's like really starting to scale. And it feels just like a lot's, flowing through the system, like you're saying, much faster. How much money does your startup spend on all these different software products? And how much time does it take you to integrate them all together? Let me guess. Too much time, too much money. Well, Odoo is here to help. That's spelled O-D-O-O. It's a suite of business apps that runs your entire company on one platform. I kid you not. And if you're currently using a Frankenstack of individual software solutions that don't talk to each other, well, you're wasting your time, energy, and that precious money you raised for your startup. Odoo streamlines your workflow and brings all that information together. Your workday will be more productive because Odoo's integrations eliminate all of that repetitive tasks and data entry that you have to do when you're doing a Frankensite, right? Plus, if you only need 2 or 3 apps to optimize your workflow, that's all you pay for. Odoo won't stick you with the bill for the apps you don't use. You pay for what you use. Odoo has an app for every business need. They offer 30 main apps that are updated regularly and another 16,000 from their active community. For instance, Odoo offers a suite of financial software that'll help you keep your books tight with accounting, payment tracking, invoicing, and more. Your first app is free forever, and right now, Odoo is offering a $1,000 credit on your first implementation pack. Go to odoo.com/twist, odoo.com/twist to check it out, odoo.com/twist. Take the $1,000, put it in your account, and then use it when you're ready. But get it now because I don't know how long the offer is going to last. Catch me up on what you're doing because I know you used to use your own money. And then I heard something about maybe being involved with SoftBank and this $100 million opportunity fund. What exactly are you focused on? And for people who don't know how you invest, how much you invest, and what verticals, take us through what you're looking for and what pools of capital you come out of.
Yeah, certainly. My background, Jason, has been, for first 15, 20 years, I was an entrepreneur building some cybersecurity companies. And so that's what my grad school work is in. We built a company called Cypher Trust, and we built PureWire, and then Pindrop. And it wasn't until Pindrop that I actually opened my eyes to, wait a second, there's a world where I'm not the entrepreneur, I'm helping another entrepreneur. And when I met VJ and we co-founded that company, after it was going along well and we were probably at the Series B, I said, wait, there's more VJs. There's more smart people that need help. And, I met VJ through Georgia Tech. And so what I did then was said, I just want to get as close as I can to Georgia Tech's campus and meet students and professors coming out of there. And so I first started this place called Tech Square Labs. And my whole idea was, how do we have smart people walk in the door and kind of co-work, and I'll find ones to invest in. And we started doing this thing called Startup Battle, where people would compete and $100,000 investment prize. And I did that for 3 or 4 years. And through Tech Square, invested in 30, 40 companies, many that are Atlanta or university-based companies. Through Startup Battle, invested, very early stage, kind of 2 people on a laptop. I mean, what we'd call nowadays, probably pre-seed or pre-seed. But there's been some good companies we had the fortune of being part of through that. And then fast forward, I've been looking at over the last 2 years, like, okay, how to do that at more scale, right? How to be able to participate not only at seed, but across Series A and Series B, but doubling down on that thesis of like Atlanta and the Southeast and things out of universities and things that are diverse. And so I started building this plan to do Panoramic. Along the way, last year, a good friend, Marcelo Clar, who leads SoftBank, he called and said, "Hey, Paul, we're going to start a fund dedicated to minorities. It's going to be a $100 million fund called Opportunity Fund, and would you help with it?" And so I joined the investment committee of the Opportunity Fund, and there's an amazing team there, and it's a $100 million fund focused on Blacks and Latinos and Native Americans. And then just 2 weeks ago, Jason, we announced Panoramic. And I partnered with a gentleman named Mark Buffington. He ran a firm called BIP Capital that's been in Atlanta for the last 8 years or so. They're on Fund 4 and been one of the most active firms in the region. And we partnered and we rebranded and called the firm Panoramic, with the whole point that we look where other people don't. We've taken a wider view. And so that is kind of where I'm investing. So I'm a managing partner at Panoramic, and then I'm on the investment committee at Opportunity Fund.
And with the Opportunity Fund, that means they're out there finding the founders, vetting everything. And when you're on that investment committee, they say, "Hey, here's the ideas we want to invest in," and you just make sure, "Hey, listen, this is an appropriate investment," or you just give feedback. And tell me about that process.
Yeah, so the investment committee is Marcelo Clar, this was his brainchild of how to kind of make impact in the world. And another lady named Stacy Brown Philpott, who was CEO of TaskRabbit previously. And I knew both Marcelo and Stacy. We're all in the same class at Aspen Institute through like Henry Crown Fellow program. So we've been friends for years. And then the fourth person is a gentleman named Shu Nyata, who is at SoftBank and leads their Latin America fund. So the four of us are the investment committee, and there's a team of brilliant people who are running it and sourcing deals and analyzing. And we look at a lot of companies and met with hundreds of companies, and we've done about 20 investments in the first 9 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you I don't want to say controversial question, but this is the question I keep hearing when we talk about equality and making sure everybody gets access to capital. A dedicated fund for people who are underrepresented versus just making every fund more fair, just, and having more people of color or underrepresented people in the fund. Are these either or is it an end? What's your take on that? I think
both should be pursued. One is has more direct, immediate impact, right? And so it's one thing to go take these funds and firms that have been around for 50 years and go change all the processes, because you have to change the LPs, you have to change the GPs, you have to change the screening. There's years before we get there, but you have to do that work still. But then you take something like Opportunity Fund, and it's dedicated, it's purpose built, it's the team is diverse, the mission is there. Now you look at the portfolio, you have a group of some of the top minority entrepreneurs that now can come together. And so, other thing with Opportunity Fund is it's not only the capital, but those entrepreneurs get access to SoftBank's ecosystem and like all the founder support. And so this is an ecosystem that usually you don't get access to unless you're raising $100, $200, $300 million. And so
I don't have access to that ecosystem. I was going to ask you for a connect.
I got you, man. I got you.
I know Masa, but I don't know anybody in between. So now I got you.
So I'll introduce you to Marcelo and Shu and the team. But it's like now these minority founders that we've invested in, can be raising $1 million or $2 million, but also get plugged into this team that helps them grow and helps them with those connections. And oftentimes that's what a minority founder needs in addition to the capital. Right? Because they might not come from that same network. They might not have that same set of people to reach out to. And so I think both are needed, especially when you're dealing with a problem that is, centuries in the making. Yeah. It's not just one solution. So the fact that people are debating like, oh, this is the wrong solution, this is the right, it's kind of like we need Scott Weiss from our part used to call the sledgehammer approach, right? You have the egg and you need to try all the solutions. And that's what we have to, it's such a bad problem, and it's centuries in the making that we have to try everything. And I think this is one approach that I'm watching work in real time.
I think that's a really important observation and insight, because what I find is people get very critical of everybody trying to improve the situation, right? It's like, if there is different ways to put this fire out, or there's different ways to build this bridge, whatever metaphor we want to use to solve the problem and make the world, more just, more equal, and spread these opportunities around, like, all the better. Fantastic. And there is a very specific problem that you very subtly mentioned there, which I think we need to unpack. Venture firms are very weird. Like, they form almost like a poker group or a sorority or a fraternity or a golf group. They're decades in the making, and they don't change that often. Like partnerships, you have 4 or 5 partners, they're chopping up, whatever the fund is and whatever the returns are and whatever the management fees are. And usually they only switch out a partner when somebody retires. So, the inertia might be every 2 funds, 3 funds, they might change somebody. And I don't think the public understands this concept. This is why new funds are so important, right?
It is. Because they have a system that works. Like, if a fund's been around that long, like, there's a reason it's working. Like, they're delivering returns. And so if you're delivering returns based on a certain model, based on a certain prototype and a founder type that works for you, even though you might think it's the right thing to broaden your funnel and go look for your results are working. And so you're hesitant to go make drastic changes. Where if you have someone with a very new fund and you're building an approach from the ground up, you can think about deal flow a different way. You could think about, how you help founders in a different way. And so, because that's what it takes. Think how bad the problem is. You know the numbers, right? Like 1% of venture capital to blacks. Whereas,
Crazy.
Blacks are like 13% of the US population. So we're talking an order of magnitude deficit, right? Same thing with women founders. You're not talking like, we need to tweak it 5 to 10%.
Yeah, no, we need a 10x solution, not a 10% solution.
Exactly. And the thing though is not just like, let's do this because it's like the right thing to do. It's like people are missing out on returns. Like you're supposed 100%. To be seeking alpha. It's like, why would you just take half of the country and not make sure you're connecting with them and paying attention to them, especially nowadays when minorities have a competitive advantage in many of the sectors of technology that are becoming most important.
Give me some examples of that. Where do you see minority founders having an edge? I can think of one right off the bat, which is social. If you look at Instagram, Twitter, and now Clubhouse, all built on Black culture, because Black culture, let's be honest here, is American culture, period.
Yep.
Black culture is American culture. That's our export. Whether it's music, fashion, everything, comes out of Black culture, period.
You nailed it. You nailed it. From what we wear to how we dance to how we dress to what we listen to, it's the cool, right? The cool. And, as tech is more consumerized, whether it's social networks or what's happening in gaming or e-gaming, whether it's as much as community is coming into everything, like community is coming into fintech, community is coming into kind of where you live and kind of how you think about buying houses. And so as much as that's happening, minority founders and minority influencers have a competitive advantage. And so if investors are overlooking that, they're really overlooking the people that are going to drive the next generation of technology growth. And it's kind of like what happened in different sports. Like you start to see this influx of minority founders that are understanding what it means to build a scalable product, understanding what it means to go to market efficiently. And as you learn that skill set, it's kind of like when you saw the first minorities start to play tennis or start to play golf, right? You just let us know the rules.
Like,
you let us know the rule
how's this story going to end?
Right?
Serena and Tiger.
Exactly. Once you get access to how the rules work, it gets really interesting. And so I think anyone who's paying attention and intentionally adding diversity to their deal flow, they're getting tomorrow's returns earlier before everybody else starts to pay attention.
Do you ever wish that you invested in some of the best performing IPOs of 2019 and 2020? Well, OurCrowd investors did invest early in many of those awesome IPOs. And with OurCrowd, accredited investors can invest directly and easily in startups early, before they IPO, or they get bought. And that's what you're looking to do. OurCrowd investors have benefited from companies IPOing like Beyond Meat, Yum Yum, and Lemonade. Some of the companies have been acquired by buyers like Intel, Nike, Microsoft, Oracle, and Uber. Yum Yum. Shout out Uber. The investment professionals at OurCrowd have already invested hundreds of millions of dollars in over 200 companies with dozens of exits. They do a great job over there. They got a great diligence process. And so here is your call to action. Today, you can join OurCrowd's investment in Shield, an AI-powered platform that helps global financial enterprises meet increasingly complex compliance rules. And according to their deal memo, Shield addresses an $89 billion market with tools that automatically detect and alert on behaviors that lead to market abuse, employee misconduct, and information sharing. You can get in early on Shield and other unique opportunities at ourcrowd.com/twist. I recently wet my beak and placed a small bet on Cyabra, a company that uses AI. Again, hey, this is a trend, AI, right? To uncover disinformation and expose fake news stories on social media. The OurCrowd account is free, and you can sign up right now and get that VIP This Week in Startups treatment by going to OurCrowd.com/twist, OurCrowd.com/twist, OurCrowd.com/twist. There are so many things to be hopeful about right now. I think there's obviously a lot of pain and a lot of history of pain and suffering in this country and the mistakes and our original sins. But, I look and I see so many great moments happening. I was just talking with somebody about who had the best quarter, Chamath, or, this venture capitalist, whatever. And it was like, no, I think Jay-Z had the best quarter. I mean, he sold half of Ace of Spades to LVMH after, I forgot what champagne company said, we don't want your people here.
Cristal.
Is that Veuve?
Cristal.
Cristal.
Yeah, Cristal.
Literally, Jay-Z is including Cristal free marketing in his songs. And they're like, yeah, brown people, black people, not so much for Cristal. Yeah. He's like, okay. Ace of Spades, what's up? He sells half of that to LVMH, takes down hundreds.
Yep.
And then Tidal. He's like, you know what?
Yep.
I wonder if the artist owned the platform, what that would look like.
Right.
And he 10x'd, 10x'd? I mean, It's crazy.
About 10 times. And then he had a cannabis deal. He was part of a cannabis SPAC.
I didn't even see that. I mean, I can't even keep up. Who was also in Oatly, I think.
Yeah, he was in Oatly. So it's interesting. Music.
This is his side hustle, and he's killing us. I hate to point it out, but I think he was music was his number one thing, and this is the side hustle, and he's just dominating it. I mean, that is the really killer thing, I think, when you can mix celebrity and influencer and product, because I feel like celebrities and influencers have an inherent understanding of what consumers want, and they connect with them so deeply. So this kid, Dobrik, is doing the camera company, Dispo.
Oh, yeah.
He really understands that generation. And Jay-Z understands, when people are popping bottles at the club, here's what that should look like. And here's what, the trend is in Oatly. Or, he's getting it from champagne all the way down to milk alternatives.
Right.
It's a pretty great moment.
It is. What I love is he's going after industries that have traditionally been unfair to the people that have been creating the value, right? So music industry is traditionally unfair to the creators. And so with Tidal, he went after that. Food and beverage. I mean, the Cristal CEO kind of shot himself in the foot and he went after that.
Man.
And then if you look at the cannabis industry, I mean, it's not exactly tech, but it's creating tens of billions of dollars of value. It's kind of the most valuable crop that this country's ever seen. But if you look at everyone that's going public, there's no diversity. But we all know this country was built on the backs of blacks tending to crops. And it's
really?
Wait a second.
I mean, I was about to go there and connect that. You beat me to it. And then think about this. In one state, a black teenager gets put in jail for selling a dime bag or an ounce of weed. In another state or in Canada, some white executive IPOs a company for selling weed.
Yeah.
I mean, where's the justice here? Where's the fairness? I mean, it's great to see this finally leveling out. I feel I don't know how you feel, because we're both, I think, of the same generation. We're both Gen X.
Yep.
And we've been watching this story, for now close to 50 years. I just turned 50. And I feel it's we got to see it be really bad. We got the tail end of just explicit racism and people really going at each other. And then we're watching it and it feels like maybe by the end of our life, this might feel really equitable. I'm hopeful. I don't know. How do you feel?
I think
because I'm a white guy, it's easy for me to feel hopeful about it, right? Maybe I'm just painting something that makes me feel better, but how do you feel as a black man?
There's this Kanye lyric that says, like, people say I'm racist because I only see green faces. And it's that part is actually promising, though, because, at the end of the day, if like you can feel the economic impact, you kind of look past the color of the skin. Mm-hmm. And as more minorities are participating in business, you gain a respect, right? You gain access, and people realize, like, oh, wait a second, this person's smart in a different way. This person's creative or genius in a different way. And that helps gain that respect. That helps people kind of get this equality that you're mentioning. And so I think as you see time after time and deal after deal, quarter after quarter of that, you'll get to it. And a lot of it will be driven by, there's some set of people that are doing it because it's the right thing to do. There's some set of people that are doing it because like the numbers kind of drive you in that direction. And I think that's okay. Right. If you look at like the work of like Martin Luther King, I mean, he spent a lot of time fighting for civil rights and voting rights, but a lot of his time later in his career was about, economic empowerment and about more of kind of economic equality. And so I think both of those kind of drive us in the right direction. And these things that we're mentioning are just examples of it, right? Kind of whether it be, company A or company B, those are all steps in the right direction, ultimately of kind of getting into a world that's more fair and more equal.
And then it's against the backdrop of seeing something like George Floyd, right? And then the NBA having to come out and say, you know what? I don't know if we're taking the court unless we can address this, right? So we still have this pocket over here of like just disgusting, like horrific unfairness and violence towards black men, right? And it's still not solved, right? And that's the heartbreaking part when you try to like reconcile this. But it's all part of the same system: education, opportunity, policing, drug policing and cannabis. All this stuff feels like it's part of the same system. That's, at least I feel like it's churning in the right direction. Right?
Yep. And the thing that happened this time, and with the murder of George Floyd, is usually the world had become desensitized to it. Right. It happened, unfortunately, like almost, monthly, if not weekly. And as a black man, you would see it. You would watch that video on your phone in the morning, and you see someone that looked just like you doing nothing but driving home from work. And you'd have to like dust it off and like go into the office and like act normal and like close the deal and write the code and get the customer. And so monthly, you're going through this like, wait, there's someone that looks just like me, been treated like an animal, but I have to like forget that for a moment and go perform. This time, the entire world was sitting at home because of COVID, right? So the entire world was holding still. And I think the timing of what the George Floyd murder was so instrumental in the impact, because everyone was sitting at home holding still, and everyone had to watch it, and everyone had to digest it and think about it. And it's, I think, caused a lot of the positive reaction, and people realizing the disconnect that we've experienced over the last year. But I think that emotion is part of what we had been experiencing every month for the last several years as this happened.
Yeah. And let's be just completely real here. Black men and the black community was telling us this was happening all this time. And it was only until we, as a broader society, had to witness 9 minutes of a murder, like an extended, torturous murder that, you watch it, and just even thinking about it makes you feel empty inside. It's just brutal to even think about that moment. But you were saying it the whole time, and people didn't believe it.
Right.
That's the part that's tragic, I think.
Yep. So Yeah. And I mean, it's fueled a lot of good work, right? It fueled things like Opportunity Fund to exist. It fueled a lot of corporations coming to rethink how they make hiring decisions and figuring out how they can give back. It's fueled a lot of things that we're cheering on right now. Like we invested in a company called Praxis that does diversity training to help people with unconscious bias, right? It's caused people to like double down on, like I started a medical cannabis company 2 years ago because it's about, hey, there's inequality in this industry. If we can use our business skills to go solve that inequality. And so it's fueled the passion of, I think, this current generation to just go harder. And so to your point, I think ultimately what will happen is, in this lifetime, we'll get closer to equality. Along the way, we'll see a lot of kind of good impact around education and kind of feeding the folks that are in need and so forth.
2021 is looking up. Tons of new beginnings, lots of hope. It's going to be a great year and hopefully great opportunities for you to grow your business. But if you're going to grow your business, you're going to need incredibly talented people to do as a founder what maybe you're not great at or you don't have time to do anymore. You need to build your team. You're only going to be as successful as the team that builds your products, interfaces with your customers, and builds the culture of your company. And LinkedIn Jobs finds the right person quickly to fill your positions. And we are going to give you your first job posting free right now. You go to linkedin.com/angel. LinkedIn.com/ANGEL, Angel. Very easy to remember. Hiring is super important. I'm doing it here at launch. Just hired a second producer for This Week in Startups, hiring a community manager. We hired another support executive for the syndicate. We are booming over here. And we do all of this by going to LinkedIn Jobs. 722 million members worldwide, mean business. They keep their profiles up to date on LinkedIn for a reason. They're looking for opportunities. And you can post your job with all those great screening questions, and LinkedIn is going to get your role, that position, in front of the right people with the soft skills, the hard skills, and all the things you need. The thing I've been blown away with is the quality of the candidates. Very simple. LinkedIn.com/angel, LinkedIn.com/angel, and terms and conditions apply because they're giving you that free first job posting. Thank you, LinkedIn, for supporting the show. It's also very interesting. I can tell you from my side, just watching other white venture capitalists. Mm-hmm. And, I'm a seed investor, so I get there earlier. And we made a real effort, as you know, because you speak at all our events, doing Founder University specifically for underrepresented people, doing it specifically for women. And we just changed the ratio of people we were funding. It happened I think we did it in 2 years, just Jackie on my team doing these underrepresented Founder Universities, a 2-day event. And these downstream investors from us were like, where are you finding all the Black women to invest in? Literally somebody said that to me, can you introduce me to some Black women? Because I have never invested in a Black woman. I've done 47 investments. And this is what a person said to me. I'm just terrified that somebody's going to see my statistics at some point and realize I've only invested in 2 women and they were both white women, and I've never invested in a Black founder. I mean, it was like a CTO on one team. And there was just abject fear the last 2 or 3 years from some people who just didn't have any diversity. And I said, well, have you actually talked about it or engaged people of color? Have you actually met them where they are? And they were like, no, how do you do that? I was like, you talk to people? And they're just like, oh, is that how you do it? I'm like, is this not completely obvious to you? Why are you not just, anytime a Black founder, if you have not invested in a Black founder yet, anytime a Black founder emails you, just meet with them. It costs you nothing. And then just be as helpful as you can be, and the ratio will change. But if you're not putting any effort into it, you think it's just magically going to change, that you're going to have some 19-year-old Black founders come to you and drop out of Harvard with their idea for a SaaS company, and they're just going to call you like some white guy on Sand Hill Road? It's just not going to happen. That's not realistic. Do a little bit of work, right?
Yes, And now people are publishing so many lists, like Michael Siebel and Y Combinator published their directory of Black founders. And I mean, on the Opportunity Fund site, we have the 20 companies we've invested in. If anybody wants to meet more Black founders, I introduce you to the ones that we've invested in across different funds. But what I love about it, Jason, if you look at the portfolios, they're not solving Black problems or just Black problems or just Latino problems. They're solving just really some of the most meaningful problems that exist. And if I didn't show you the founder, you would never know, right? A company called Carbice, this professor out of Georgia Tech that came up with a nano compound to make heat sinks more efficient. And now his compound is on space shuttles, and he just raised $15 million, right? Or someone like Vitable that's doing, kind of video healthcare, to kind of make more affordable healthcare, or there's all these problems that are just fundamental human problems that exist. And, while there are some companies that are solving problems that are more specific to minority communities, right? So like Maven is solving the problem around, hair extensions, or the guys at Squire are solving the problem around barber shops. But there's so many that are just solving like problems that are human problems and markets that are gigantic. And so sometimes people are looking for Black founders because they're only looking in one place, right? But
it's really great. I think this is where I think the dedicated funds are doing such great work, because when you look at Andreessen Horowitz or SoftBank or what Jackie's doing at our firm with Founder University, when you say, "Hey, we're dedicated to this," we're dedicating time, cycles, money, meeting time, whatever it is, then it's kind of like putting the shingle out, like, yeah, we're open for business. Come talk to us. If you don't, and this is just my advice to my contemporaries, if you're not explicitly saying we want to meet folks and you're not doing the work, it's just the change is not going to happen. It's not going to happen at the pace we need it to happen. Like we talked about earlier, this is a 13x problem, not a 13% problem. We need to really, really get moving on this, and just shout out to A16Z with their opportunity fund and SoftBank, because you list the company. So if you're looking to make a bet, you can just go to that page, meet with 10 founders. You're going to find a company that's already got product market fit that you could put $1 million into. Just get to work, cut the check. It's not hard.
Exactly. So no, I mean, like you said, Ben and the team, and, Chris Lyons with Cultural Leadership, and Nate Jones at Talent Times Opportunity. I mean, they're doing the work and been doing it for years. And then, you look at what like these celebrities and influencers, like we talked about Jay-Z a lot, but like everybody's doing it now. So like Quality Control, like the label Coach K and the team that run like Lil Baby's career and other artists like that, you start to see them investing in companies like XSET, and they just did a partnership with Techstars, right? So you're seeing music labels really become active. And then you look in Atlanta, people from Ludacris to 2 Chainz to T.I. are all invested in tech companies. And so this next few years, just gonna be so impactful.
It feels like as somebody explained it to me on the pod, really, and Nas has Queensbridge, Carmelo Anthony had his fund. I don't know if he's still actively doing it, but I saw he had done a fund. And then LeBron in my portfolio invested in and became a spokesperson for Calm.com. And I can tell you, I had more people come to me in that month to talk about Calm than in the entire 6 years of being an investor in that company. Like, LeBron James uses Calm. I was like, yeah, he's an investor too. Like, he's going to make a lot of money off of Calm. Like, it's definitely happening. I know from the Warriors just being in town, I'm good friends with Draymond. And he, he's always like, hey, what deals? I mean, he's just really engaged. Durant was very engaged. They're just looking for deals. And that's just a great moment for me as well, just to be like, wow, Draymond Green and I are like talking about deals at the poker table and trying to figure out what we can invest in together. This is like just great for society writ large.
You mentioned Calm, and I had to point to what do you call it? I got my beat wet a little bit from your syndicate. From your syndicate.
Oh, you were in the syndicate?
Calm. Yeah, a little bit. Just a little.
Fuck yeah.
Little wet beat. Yeah.
So let's talk about when you're young entrepreneurs or first-time founders. What in your mind could all first-time founders do a better job at? We got a lot of founders listening to these episodes, and they want to connect with folks like us. What can they do less of, and what can they lean into more of to close the check and to just close the deal and get the money? When you think about it, what makes it really easy for you to fund a company? What makes it really hard to fund a company?
For me, it's this order of, team and customers. Mm-hmm. And what effort have you put in to get people around you to join you? Like, what's your Olympic team? Right? I think of it as like not the little league team, like you went and got your friends from down the block, but like the Olympic team, like you went and found like some of the best people in the world, and you're early. I get it. So like a lot of people are going to tell you no, but have you convinced a few real game changers to join you on this journey? And so team, and then for me, so customers. So too often, first-time founders, I think, want to jump to talking to investors first, and they skip the recruiting the team part, and they skip the really have a real relationship with a prospective customer and get their feedback and understand. And they're pitching the idea more so than they're pitching like the team and kind of the customer reaction to the idea. They want to go straight to give me money when there's a little bit of legwork that you need to do first. And so I think that order of team, customer, investors, too many people want to jump the first two and have investor meetings, I think a bit too early.
See, this is so important. When you go in to meet with an investor and you're talking about what you're going to do, as opposed to talking about who you recruited and who's using the product, your credibility is very low. But when you come in and say, I got the former, developer from Facebook to leave, and he's investing or she's investing $25K, and they've been to the show before, they know what they're doing. Oh, and by the way, let me tell you about our first 4 customers. 2 of them are using the product, they're getting some value, but these two customers asked us for these 17 features, and let me show you what our progress is with those features. Now, for us as investors, we don't have to imagine that you can recruit. We don't have to imagine and believe you when you tell us that you understand the customer. You do understand the customer. And I am constantly ripping up decks and saying, nobody gives a shit about the total addressable market slide that you found from Gartner Group, Arthur Andersen, PricewaterhouseCoopers, all due respect. It doesn't mean anything to anybody. Nobody gives a shit about that. Tell us about those 2 customers who can't live without your product. Give me a slide on each one. Give me 3 slides on each one where here's how they're using the product. Here's how you got into the organization. You met them I had somebody I was like, how did you meet these customers? You've got these 5 or 6 customers. And they're like, I went to a trade show. I was like, what? And they were selling some sort of product that was for the legal market. Yeah, there's like 10 legal trade shows. And I went to 3 of them and I met these people. And then we went out, there was a cocktail party afterwards, and then I met them again at the cocktail party, and then I met them in their office in New York, and then they said they would give the product. I'm like, oh my Lord, I love you.
Right?
You went to a trade show, and you showed your product to the people who are the target audience, and you understand them, and you talk to them. That's the kind of stuff that gets guys like us to write checks.
Exactly. It's not a kind of, I made this great slide. And if I get your money, then here's what I will do. It's kind of, show me you're doing something and you just need more fuel for the fire to keep going. So many people get that part wrong where they would just be better off, go work on it for a month or 2 months. It doesn't mean work on it for 3 years. Go do a little bit of legwork. And then from there, I think the other thing that, I'm sometimes an entrepreneur, sometimes an investor, right? Every few years I'm helping start a company. And so the one thing that I've been able to see from both sides is kind of the decision or process of an investor looking at a return model, right? Looking at kind of what multiple, what IRR, am I going to get this money back with friends? And so I often help entrepreneurs understand, especially as you go into later stages, Series A, Series Bs, explain to an investor how you're going to send this money back with friends, right? So in the back of their process, they're doing this return model. They're modeling your best case and your base case and your average and a weighted probability, and they're managing the IRR. And so if you think about that, as you think about the outcomes and your 3-year projection, you can help put yourself in the shoes of this person and help them understand, here's how this turns into a 3-time return or 5-time return. That doesn't mean you have to turn into a VC as an entrepreneur, but it's helpful to understand the framework that's actually driving decisions.
Super critical, because if you're coming to them with a business that in the best case doesn't return their fund and doesn't bring back that money, and every dollar doesn't come back with 9 other dollars, why would they waste one of the slots in that spreadsheet on you? They got 30 slots, 40 slots, whatever it is in that model. Every one of those is a chance to hit an outlier. They don't want to waste any shot. Every one of those bullets is precious. They got to hit this crazy half-court shot. They got to hit a shot from one of those, speaking of Steph Curry, they got to hit one of those Steph Curry in the tunnel shots. That's what we have to hit. You hit Calendly, right? Right. Calendly is hitting it from the upper deck. What was that investment about? How did you hit that one? Tell me the story.
Which one? Calendly? So that was on my anti-portfolio, Jason. I know Tope. He's a good friend, a great guy. I have the text message from 5 years ago when it said, "Hey, I'm raising And
Calendly, it's pronounced Calendly, not Calendarly.
Yep.
Calendly.
Yep.
Sorry, my bad.
Calendly. Based in Atlanta, minority founder. The reports say they just raised that $3 billion valuation. I have the text message in my phone 5 years ago, and I looked at the product and I said, it's kind of a calendar add-on. Not sure. And here's what I didn't do. To your point of how we used to be too selective for meetings, I didn't even take the meeting. Right? I didn't even take the meeting.
That's painful.
Right? I have the text message, but I didn't actually go take the meeting. And so, now I cheer them on and we're friends and so forth. They built an amazing company, the viral loop of that thing, and the number of meetings that they're scheduled. Yeah, I missed it.
In your backyard. The biggest one in your own backyard you missed. See, this is the blind spot. Even you could have a blind spot.
Yeah, minority founder, down the street from me. Right?
And but you know them.
And I know them, but those are the things that keep you going, keep you aiming to get better in this funny world of being an investor, right? And it makes you kind of think about more and more what could go right versus what could go wrong when you're looking at a potential investor.
Explain what that means, because this is the hard lesson. I've been investing. This is my 11th year of investing. How long have you been actually writing checks?
Maybe 4 or 5 years now. Yep.
Yeah.
So more recent.
Yeah, this is something you realize maybe I think in that 5, 6, 7 years when something you dismissed as just being a feature or not big enough, too nichey, and you came up in your mind, because our human minds are so not risk-taking, right? We're so cautious as humans. We're so scared that we go, you know what? It's a feature. There's got to be something bigger. But you said it. What could go right versus what could go wrong? You made the decision of so many things can go wrong here. Can't Google Calendar or Microsoft just add this? And here we are. It's 10 years later, whatever it is. And this, I've never seen all my team. I'm paying for this product 20 different times on 20 different corporate cards. Everything went right.
Yep.
Or maybe one thing went right. I don't know what it is.
But no, that's exactly what it is. You realize it's kind of like being an armchair quarterback. It's easy to sit there and critique the plays. And some people think that's what makes them a great investor. It's if I point out all the things that go wrong, look how smart I am. I can point out the problems. And it's no, the better ones are actually forecasting what happens when things go right. And then helping the entrepreneur make those things come to pass. And so no, that's a great example of, it's a product that people love. The viral loop is there. It's the efficient sales cycle. And so you spend the rest of your months and days and years, making up for that, right? And looking for the next one and looking for the next one. But now in this world with 30-minute meetings, you do 12 meetings a day instead of 4. And so you don't miss the meeting the next time.
Yes. Right? See, everybody can improve their game. Since I gave you the PTSD now, when I started with, it's so funny because I have my notes here and I glanced over at my notes and I was like, oh shit, he hit that. And then I realized it was one you didn't hit. Give me some of the big hits. Take me through the greatest hits. Right now you're just wow, I can't believe this has gone so well.
Yeah. So, a few, my background has been in cybersecurity. And so I co-founded, but also wrote a check was Pindrop, right? So we're 10 years in, started around a napkin. The first round was $1 million round. Now there's, 200 million invested into the company and growing. And probably 7 or 8 of the top 10 banks are customers, and that's going well. And then other cybersecurity companies, was an investor in a company called Cadium that turned into Expanse and then was acquired by Palo Alto for, I believe it was 600, 800 million recently. And then company.
And those security companies are slow and steady, man. Those are just these nice little $500 million, $1 billion.
Yep.
Just straight. They don't pop into the $100 billion things that often, but man, do they become worth 500 million to 5 billion over and over again.
Time and time again, right? And problems that you think are solved already. But the hackers, it's kind of this industry that kind of keeps giving back a bit. The gift and curse is you solve it, and then the hackers figure out a different approach. And so the industry needs a different solution. And so it's one of the few industries where there's an adversary that every few years will create a need for the next generation of your product. And so, invest in a company called Emailage that, stops fraud, for commerce. They were acquired recently by LexisNexis. And, but then, there's, others that are still going. So like, I was investing in like Ring, so some consumer facing things outside of it.
That's my anti-portfolio. Oh, that's so brutal.
I was lucky there. I met Jamie and
so smart.
He was kind enough to let me invest. And then, but more recently, companies like Greenlight, fintech for kids that, met them. They're in Atlanta.
What do they do? I never heard of them.
Oh, so Greenlight's a unicorn based in Atlanta, and they make a debit card for kids. And so if you want to give your kid and pay your kids for their chores, but like on a debit card, and they get more allowance depending on if they did their chores or not. And so,
oh, wow.
Yep. There's millions of families that use this debit card for kids. So think of it as like what's a neobank, like Chime or Moneyline or Varo. So it's like a neobank for kids. And so now they've raised, I don't know, maybe $100 million. The most recent value was reported.
They're worth $1.2 billion, yeah.
Yep.
Do they let the kids trade Bitcoin as well with their allowance?
They just announced investing accounts for kids.
They did? So, that was a joke. Oh my God. So they combined in the Robinhood feature set?
Yeah. So a little bit of equities. You want to teach your kid how to invest. So there's equities. So that
hopefully not options or shorting stocks.
Right.
Let's leave that for when you get to college.
At least.
Exactly. I don't even play with like options or calls, and like my nephew and like a bunch of like young people I know, they know more about put options and call options, and they're like taking my advice and then making all this money. And I'm like, explain to me one more time how that put call works. How does it work? What are you doing exactly? You're buying options on what? It's like,
right.
Oh my God.
You're doing like a straddle strategy of what?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm like, all I know how to do is put money in and hope for the best. That's kind of my strategy. Just keep placing bets.
But I love.
I don't know how to bet these things like that.
In fintech right now, because you're getting all these companies that are becoming like affinity fintechs, right? So like Greenlight is like a fintech for kids. Right. And then I'm an investor and helped start this company called Greenwood. That's a neobank for minorities. And you talk about how culture impacts technology. We partnered with Killer Mike, right? The rapper and activist, and then partnered with Ambassador Andrew Young, right? So great civil rights hero. And people like Jesse Williams and launched Greenwood, which is like this neobank for Black and Latinos. And like the whole point is, the banks are really unkind and unfair to minorities. They're declined for loans at a higher rate. They can't get the same access to savings.
Well, and then think about the fees they charged them. Like when you get to where we are, people are like, oh yeah, no, that's all free. And I'm sending you tickets to the Knicks and you're all good. And here's a margin loan. When I first heard what a margin loan was, I was like, wait, what? They're like, yeah, well, you can just take out whatever amount of money you need and we'll just charge you 1%. Don't worry about it. It's a courtesy. And I'm like, where was that when I fucking needed it?
Right.
They're like, yeah, you can't have that until you're rich. I'm like, but I don't need it now. I have money. And they're like, yeah, that's why you can use it. I'm like,
so you can have more money for free.
For free.
I remember
it's free
that.
Money.
I was like, wait.
You remember that moment when they explained to you a margin loan?
Yeah. It's like, so wait, I have this account with money in it that's not my money, but I can use it.
Yeah. Just use it. For 1% or so. They're like, oh yeah, like whatever, plus whatever LIBOR, you're good.
And so here's what's crazy, Jason. So meanwhile, I have a bunch of friends that are minorities that like, they have a lot of money, really profitable businesses, and they can't go to the bank and get a loan for their business. But it's like, it's doing 7-8 digits a year, is dropping a lot to EBITDA, is fast growing, and the traditional bank, they walk in, they get declined. And it's like, wait, where's the disconnect? And so I think that's a problem like with Greenwood we're working to solve, but it's another example like Greenlight of an affinity bank, an affinity fintech. They both happen to be based in Atlanta. But yeah.
I mean, you could literally flip it. You could be like, you know what? You don't have a lot of money in your account. Checking's free. We're not going to charge you for the ATM. When you get a little bit of cash, then we'll start charging you. That's kind of how the world should work, right? It's like, there's not that much money down here anyway. And we're in Wealthfront, and Wealthfront's like, you know, the first 10,000 you can invest whatever it is. I think it's 5 or 10,000. We won't take any fees. We'll take our little chip when you get past 10,000 in holdings or whatever. That's kind of how the world should work. I kind of feel that's how like taxes should work. I feel like if you're coming up, things should be free, and then when you kind of start to hit your stride, then you start paying into your taxes or whatever it happens to be. And it's the exact opposite in the world. I got famous and people are like, can I send you a free phone or a computer for free? And I'm like, what? What are you talking? I don't need a free computer. Please don't send me anything for free. I don't want free shit from you. Like, no, that was like I went to Sundance. My brain got melted. You ever go to Sundance? And like you see these like suites. They have these things like called gifting suites.
Okay.
And you know about gifting suites in Hollywood?
Yep, for sure.
Or like other parties, and you walk in and they're like, oh, would you like, we can ship you this espresso machine. We'll send you this. Or would you like these skis? And I'm like, what's the catch? They're like, we'll just take a picture and we'll put it in the back of the Sundance magazine. And I'm like, okay, what's the catch?
Oh, that's how it is. Like my fiance, every day, she just gets stuff to the house. It's like, why do they send you? Oh, you're on this TV show and you have a bunch of followers. And so
I can say what your fiance is on one of the Real Housewives show, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm assuming Real Housewives of Atlanta. I don't watch it, but I follow her now because I follow you.
Okay.
So I follow your wife to see just for the 1 out of 20 pictures that include you.
I understand.
And I'm like, what's that about now? Does that mean are you on that show? Do you get pulled into this reality television orbit now?
No, not really. It's interesting, Jason. Like, I'll tell you why we did it. So I used to come to the Bay every month or so, and people would say, oh, you live in Atlanta. And they would say, hey, do you know 2 Chainz? And then they'll say, hey, do you know like the Housewives? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, that's not Atlanta. Like, Atlanta is like, we have these Fortune 500s and we have Georgia Tech and we have, like
Coca-Cola there?
Coca-Cola. There's all this
CNN?
other stuff. And I realized it was the number one representation of the city, right? It's the number one viewed show on all of Bravo. And we said, look, what if we put like someone on there that like really represents our community, that does community service and philanthropy and like builds businesses and entrepreneurship? Yeah. Like, could we show, millions of Black females technology? Could we show them entrepreneurship? Could we show them investing? And so we did it for that.
That's a good decision.
Right. And so it comes with reality TV, comes with like some hairy stuff too. So we don't do that anymore. Yeah, for sure. Right. They have to make up like weird stuff for storylines. But now she's launching a new show called Making of a Mogul. And what she's doing now is going around and interviewing like entrepreneurs and like, tell me your story of how you built your business. And so, so she's transitioned to that. But that was really the whole thing about TV is like, how can we educate more minorities and more women about business and about entrepreneurship?
That's a big win. I had a reality TV show pilot I did with NBC. Luckily, it didn't get on air because some of the people who were involved in the show were later had personal problems. I'll leave it at that. But I was like, you know what? I'm open to doing a reality show if it does promote entrepreneurship and inspires people to do it. I think Shark Tank's done a good job of that. Sounds like your fiance is going to do a great job of that. But that's got to be weird for you to be walking next to her down the street and like paparazzi, like just going crazy.
Yeah, I have to regularly take pictures of her with people when we're at the store or something. Right?
Oh, okay. Oh, so now you've become an Insta husband.
Yeah, so I'm totally like the
little. Just like, can you take a picture of me with you? Picture?
Okay, fine.
Oh God.
But yeah, to your.
You're an Insta husband, an Insta fiance, fiancés of Instagram. See, my wife's not on the social, but she's threatening to go social now. So she turned on her accounts, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. I'm going to be taking pictures of all kinds of stuff, and she got a Clubhouse account now, and I think it's going to start.
Oh man, I've seen you on Clubhouse exposing these rooms.
Oh, I'm loving it. That's like my new pastime. Because, I hated that when you and I were coming up in the industry, like the demo conference, you'd be like, oh my God, your product is so good. Give me $20,000. You can have 5 minutes on stage. And I was like, well, that's bullshit. And I started the TechCrunch 40 conference with Mike. And then eventually we split up and I did Launch Festival. And we made it free to be on stage.
Yep.
And we made it free to have a table, in the exhibition area for startups. And we would just charge the big companies, IBM or Verizon. We'd be more than happy to pay to sponsor the event. And it was great that the up-and-comers didn't have to pay. And now you got all these weird coaches trying to sell, 7-figure, 8-figure, 9-figure, 10x your business. And you want to talk about like how horrible these people are. They're specifically going after Black women, Hispanic women. You know why? Because a lot of them are just first coming into entrepreneurship.
Right.
So they look at them like targets. They're like, okay, oh, here's a Black woman who's, been raising her kids. Now she's got 5 hours a day. Her kids are in school or whatever. And she wants to start a business. Great. Let's charge her $5,000 to teach her how to do this 5X system.
That's no good.
It's gross. And it's these like white guys who, live in San Diego or whatever. And then they pretend they have some system where they're going to teach you how to do what you and I do for a living.
Right.
But you and I are not taking meetings with people who are curious about entrepreneurship. We're taking, like we said before, like, hey, show us your customers or whatever. So there's this big gap in the market, which is I'm interested in startups, but I don't know anything. But I got a lot of energy and I might even have a little bit of capital to invest in it, or I got some time to invest in it. And they come in and I tell you, these guys are such scumbags. They will say, I'll put you on a payment plan for the course. And they make them sign a contract.
Wow.
Then the person pays 10 times $1,000, $10,000 to take a course. They don't get anything out of it. And you know what they're teaching them in the course? Here's what SEO is. Here's what a ClickFunnels is. Here's how to build a landing page. And all they're doing is repeating the stuff that, people in our industry build web pages for. And they build this like very light course that you could get for free on Intercom's website, or, HubSpot has all the information for free in videos on their website because they want you to buy their product for $99 a month. So literally these people could go to HubSpot, but they don't know what that is. And so these people come in and just intercept them, charge them $10,000, make them sign non-disclosures. And sometimes they even get them to take loans out. So they're like, here's a payday loan company. Go there, get a loan to take my course.
Wow.
And they fall for it because they don't know any better. I mean, how would you know any better? My mom might fall for it. She's a nurse. She doesn't know how business and startups work. And so I'm specifically calling these people out on Clubhouse and I'm stopping them. I'm just absolutely just letting people know what the funnels are. And then I'm taking my Founder University course and I'm just going to make it into like, so you want to start a startup? Here's like step 1, step 2, step 3. And I'm going to make it just to totally fuck with these guys. I'm going to charge $1. And I'm literally hiring a full-time teacher and I'm going to charge $1. And maybe have 10,000 people do it a year, just $1, just to make a point. Yep. I'll teach them everything for $1. And then I'll figure out, I'll get some sponsor to pay for the other stuff. I'll get HubSpot to underwrite it so that if 10% of them make it to the end of the course, they might become HubSpot customers, or I'll get Zendesk or one of my people to, support it. But I tell you right now, I am livid. I'm going to come over the top and I am stopping this. It's not happening on my watch.
I love that.
Like just taking advantage of people who want to change their station in life. I mean, it's just brutal. It just makes me so angry.
I love it. It's because there's so much of it, right? Like these vultures, and they're slinging real estate courses or trading courses or Forex, or found like there's whatever, they've picked some specialty, and to your point, they'll put something in their bio that looks real, like in their Instagram bio, and they'll
7-figure, 10x entrepreneur, 8-figure. Right?
They'll go rent some cars.
Here's how you bust them. You say, tell us the name of your 8-figure business, because it's not listed.
Right.
It's not the business isn't listed. You could put like you could literally list all the businesses with the URLs, with your bio page on the website. Yeah. Like you can do that.
Yep.
I could list it. Like you could go to Crunchbase and see my investments. Like it's not too hard, people. But these people are like 16, 7, 8, 9-figure businesses. Just ask them, tell me the number one business. What's the URL so I can look it up? What's the address of that business? There is no address. There is no business. It's all bullshit.
Yep. No, they have a couple rented cars, and they chartered a jet once or twice with all their friends and took selfies, and they rotate those pictures. It's kind of the Bow Wow challenge.
No, they literally will rent cars, put them in their driveway, and take pictures of it.
Yep.
And then they put it on their Instagram, and then it's really like pernicious techniques they're using, which is if you're affiliated and you're associated with a fast car, you might have owned a couple of these. I'm not calling out your lifestyle, Paul, but I know that you have some nice vehicles. But, like you're not renting them. Like you own nice vehicles. I own a couple of nice vehicles.
Right.
Then this is where it really gets sick. This one guy was paying like Sylvester Stallone and like Pacino, and they don't know what they're getting into, but their speaking bureau is like, hey, go to this conference. He wants to talk to you about your career. Here's $50K. So then they do that. Then they have a picture and a video on YouTube of them interviewing Al Pacino.
Oh,
and you're like, oh, they're friends with Al Pacino? And they drive a Ferrari. And they wear a tie. Okay, this person's legit. But you don't realize they rented the Ferrari for $1,000 for 6 hours. And they paid Pacino $50,000 to be on their conference. And they charged all this money for the tickets. So they just made the audience pay for Pacino. And they got all the association. Now you pay $10,000 for the course and we're charging your credit card until your credit card gets turned off. And now you're in debt. And you're like some single mom, out of Atlanta or LA or something. And you got into their click funnel and they convinced you to do it. And then the techniques they use, as one person was telling me, they tried to make her feel bad about herself. Like, oh, you can afford those shoes and that purse, but you can't afford to invest in yourself. I guess you're not serious about business. And they kept like grinding her and like insulting her. And she was like, okay, I guess I gotta like really take myself more seriously. And she was like really embarrassed about how she fell for it. And I was like, don't be embarrassed. Like, people pay for college. Like people have coaches. Like in our industry, Jerry Colonna has been on my pod multiple times. Good friend of mine. He's a great coach. Like coaching exists.
Right.
But that's not who these people are.
Right.
I'm taking them all down.
Now let's do it. They need to be moved out of the way because there's so many promising, probably entrepreneurs that could really be successful that are taking a wrong left turn and will be distracted into that could have been the next, XYZ company. And so,
that's it. You're teaching. I'm going to hit you up again. I'm getting more of your time, Paul. I just have to say that while we wrap up here, I appreciate the hour. Just, we're friends, but if I never said it, thank you for showing up for me all the fucking time. You never say no to me. Every time I ask you to show up and speak at a conference, you're like, I'm there. And if you can't be there, you're like, I'll be there the next one. I really appreciate it, on behalf of the entrepreneurs and everything. It means a lot.
No, my pleasure, man. You're out there, leading the way and carving a path. So anything I can do to support, it's a good friendship and inspiring. And so, I like to say, it's kind of iron sharpens iron and we kind of inspire each other. So anything I can do to be helpful. Yeah. And now that I see you're on this mission of taking down these fraudulent Clubhouse rooms and coaches, I got your back. Let me know what I can do to help.
We'll run a room like legit guys giving free advice. No coaching, free coaching for life. All right, man. Continued success. And I'm coming out to Miami soon, right after I get my vaccine, and I'll see you there.
All right. I'll see you soon.
I got a good Cuban place. I forgot the name of the place, but one of my CEOs down there took me to this crazy Cuban place with croquetas and like that, those Cuban sandwiches. I don't know if you're getting those, but
I haven't yet. I was looking for one the other day. Actually, I was walking down the street and following Google Maps and trying to get to this place, and I never found it. So I haven't had good Cuban yet here.
Yeah, Old Havana Cuban Bar and Cochina. I'll email you this. There's like this really old place, and it's got a deck on the back. And man, they have these sick croquetas. Yeah, that's the name of it. I'm looking at the pictures right now. Old Havana Cuban Bar and Cochina. Just hit this place up. The backyard is dope. And the croquettes, those little fried mashed potatoes. Oh, man. If I move down there, I'm going to have to work out a lot because I'm going to be hitting so many croquettes and all these. And that Cuban sandwich is crazy.
So you're thinking about it? Down there.
I'm thinking about it. No, I'm going to, if I could see myself living in Miami or in Austin. I mean, I love both those cities. And I lived 30 years in New York, 20 Brooklyn, 10 Manhattan. Then I did 10 in LA. I've done 5 or 6 here in the Bay. I could see myself doing 10 in either of those places. I could do 10.
Yep.
I could do my time in Miami. It could be worse. It could be worse.
It could be, man. I was coming for a couple of days and I came for a week. And so I just leased a condo here. And so I was like, all right, let me try
delightful.
it. And it's delightful. It's good. It's I can sit and do
if you can lower your costs, these startups were getting demolished here at the costs.
Right.
The cost of living is too much. And I would just starting 3 or 4 years ago, I was like, come here to get the money. And then go somewhere else. And then just, keep a WeWork office. Or if you have one of those WeWork cards where you can float in and out, just come here once a month, every other month, do your meetings, meet with your partnerships, and then deploy the capital in Salt Lake, Toronto, or Austin or Miami, but Atlanta, anywhere that it's not $4,000 for a 1-bedroom.
Right.
Places. You haven't been here since the pandemic, right?
No, I haven't been in San Francisco Bay Area in a year now.
It's over. I mean, done. It is over. The apartments went from 4,000 to 2,500. The city is a ghost town. And I kid you not, 7 out of 10 restaurants shut down. The place is cleared out, and the tax and the rest of the peninsula is booming. So everybody left San Francisco and came south, east, or north. So they're all going up to, Marin, where they're going to the East Bay, Oakland, Berkeley. So those places have all gone up and even further east, like Tahoe, and they're going south to Gilroy and Santa Cruz. But now that you can work at home, people are like, why do I want to be in this city that's overpriced? I can work from home. Why am I paying $4,000 for an apartment when I could pay $2,000 for a mortgage on a house on an acre? It doesn't make sense, right? So I think San Francisco is like a 5-year slide straight down. It's going to be crazy. I don't think it can recover in the short term because of the taxes and and then now they're losing some of these super routers. So like Keith Raboy leaves, or Elon leaves, whatever. Like when that level of person leaves, young people are like, well, if Keith can go to Miami, I can go to Miami. It makes just total sense to them.
What are you going to do about your mayor run now?
I know. I guess Miami's going to need a new mayor at some point, or Austin will.
All right, there we go.
I feel like I turned 50 and I gave it a lot of thought. I feel like I want to do 10 more years of investing. Okay. I feel like if I can keep up this pace, 100 to 200 investments a year. I got 14 people in the investment company now. If I can keep up this pace and put another 1,200 investments on top of the 300 I got now and do 1,500 investments in 20 years. I don't know who can hit that track record. I kind of feel like I'll be Steph Curry with the threes, like, full circle. Like, who can catch me now? Like, I don't think you can catch me now. Who's going to catch me? Like, Paul Graham retired, like Ron Conway retired, Chris Sacca's doing, carbon. I think I got a straight shot. Like, I'll be Mount Rushmore. That's what I'm going for. I'm playing for legacy.
It would take an institution, right? I mean, it'd take like not a person, but an institution to compare.
It would take Y Combinator, Techstars type level. Like they're churning out those institutions 400 investments a year. My little 14-person team doing 100, and I think we'll hit 200. Eventually. Like, I think we're going to be in a good position. So I'm just grinding. All right, man. Good to see you, Paul. Stay safe. We'll see you soon.
Hey, you too, bud. I'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.